You worried about Carolina getting a score? Boy, do I have the answer for you.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making this your first listen or watch to get your Tuesday going the right way. Special shout out to all the everydayers joining us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, all our great insiders. It's great to be together. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. It is portal closing day. And so as you listen to or watch this, hopefully earlier on Tuesday, the portal closes tonight at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. As a reminder, that does not mean that guys have to have committed by that point. It just simply means that you have to have entered the portal by that point. You could stay in the portal and not commit as long as you're cute little heart contents until the day school starts in the fall and then commit. That's fine and well and good, but you just got to be in the portal by today. So that's where we're at, and that's where things stand. You might have heard the news yesterday. Ian Jackson is off to St. John's. Oh, color me shocked, right? I think we all probably saw that all along. Hope that goes well for him. I was kind of curious because Coach Pitino said he wants him to be a point guard. Don't see that. Either Coach Pitino's wrong or Coach Davis is wrong. We'll see. Okay, here's where we're headed today on the show. There on Monday was some wacky, confusing Ven-Allen Lubin roaster color? Whoa, that's a new one. Roller coaster news that led us all on a wild journey. From Ven-Allen Lubin is gone to Ven-Allen is entering the portal so he can come back to Carolina. We'll unpack that. And then there's a whole conversation I want to have to tie together our first two conversations where we say, if Ven-Allen Lubin is gone, does Carolina have enough depth in the front court? We'll look at that. But here's where we got to start. There has been a lot of talk, and I think I would count myself amongst this, of like, we need more scoring. There was a lot of potential on this roster, but there is nobody that's gone out and gotten like 15 points a game at the D1 level. There are guys that have scored 15 points a game multiple times, but there's nobody that's done that consistently over the course of a season. I would like to propose such a person on today's show, somebody that a lot of you have already been saying, Isaac, we've got to talk about this guy. We need him in North Carolina. Sure, I hear it and I get it, and we're ready to do it today. But part of this is, if Drake Powell leaves, if Ven-Allen Lubin leaves, you've got both roster space and dollars, which is part of the thing in this day and age. And part of this for me is, while I know I've said like, hey, Carolina is probably done in the portal, what you don't want to have happen is you don't want Drake Powell to decide he wants to stay in the NBA draft. You don't want Ven-Allen Lubin to leave, and you're like, we got nobody. We got no options to fill in. You've got to do your legwork. You've got to be ready to go. You can't get caught. So while it seemed like maybe Carolina is done and content for now, you have to keep doing your homework. You got to keep looking at potential targets. You've got to be doing some back channel work to say, hey, we think Drake Powell might stay in the NBA draft. I hope he doesn't. But if he does, here's a list. We want you to take his spot in our starting lineup. One of those is someone I thought Carolina had a great shot at landing last year, and it didn't happen. He ended up going from Stanford to Cal, and that, as you would probably guess by this point, is Andrej Stojakovic, who, once again, entered the portal, did so last Thursday. You will recall he played his freshman year at Stanford when he was part of the Pac-12. There's that Jared Hass connection. Last year was at Cal, now part of the ACC. And so that's what I want to talk about is Andrej Stojakovic. Look, he and Drake Powell, they're not the same person. They're not the same player. If Drake Powell leaves, it's not a one-for-one switch where it's like, oh, yes, here comes Andrej Stojakovic to do everything Drake Powell did. Same is true if Ven-Allen leaves. If Ven-Allen Lubin leaves, Andrej Stojakovic is not a one-for-one switch for Ven-Allen. That is a fact of the matter. And we're going to talk about this whole Ven-Allen thing in a little bit. Just stay tuned for that. But despite not being Drake Powell, despite not being Ven-Allen Lubin, Andrej Stojakovic would be a great asset for the Tar Heels. And that thing I was talking about earlier of like, yeah, you don't have anybody that scored 15 points a game at the D1 level, at the high D1 level, to put even finer point on it. Guess who has? Andrej Stojakovic. And that's why I say, if you're concerned about the Carolina players who project to take a scoring jump, not doing that, Stojakovic has already done it. He has shown the ability to do it. And there are other options we should talk about as well that could be like Drake insurance or Ven-Allen insurance. We'll look at them, but today I really wanted to start with Stojakovic, and that's what we're doing. He is obviously the son of an NBA legend in Peja Stojakovic, one of the greatest shooters in NBA history. That pedigree is in place. He's got great positional size as a three, a wing, a small forward, whatever you want to call it. He's 6'7", 205, and another one of those multi-year guys. He just finished his sophomore year, so has 2 years of eligibility, just like all the rest of these transfers that are coming in for Carolina. That's great news. So this time last year, Stojakovic was in the portal, and there was conversation between Carolina and Stojakovic. And Coach Pat Kilby and I did a show on him, and we basically asked the question, is Stojakovic a primary target who you go after, or is he more insurance of like, hey, we've got this other list of 5, 6, 7 guys we'd like to get, and if we can't get them, okay, Stojakovic is a nice honorable mention, a nice consolation prize, or whatever it is. At that point, it was tough to answer that question of which one of those he was. Now, there's no doubt about it. He is a dude you go get. Because at that point, he hadn't done what he just did this year at Cal. So we were having to project what he might do last year. Because at that point, he had only scored 7.8 points a game, played 22 minutes a game, shot 41% from the field, 32.7% from three, was making just over 50% of his free throws, just wasn't doing much. And so that's why we were like, what is Andrej Stojakovic? And we projected that he would blow up last year. And you know what? That's exactly what he did, which, by the way, is a reminder to not write off the guys that we're projecting to have bigger years this year for Carolina, because they absolutely could do that. Why? Stojakovic last year jumped from 7.8 points his freshman year to 17.9. Yes, he grew his points per game by more than 10 points a game. He was 6th in the ACC in scoring. He played 33.4 minutes a game, shot 42.7% from the field, still just around 32% from three. We'll talk about that in a little bit. 47.8% from two. And look at how his free throw number jumped from 52.8% to 81.8%. That's basically like what Seth Trimble did last year, right? Rebounds went up 4.7, assists doubled to 1.8 per game, and was just shy of a steal per game. Stojakovic blew up, had a great year last year. And let's hone in on what he's done most recently, because in his final 3 games of the season, the regular season finale, and then his 2 ACC tournament games, oh my goodness. Regular season finale, 21 points at Notre Dame, 8 of 18 from the field, hit a 3, was 7 of 14 from 2, 4 of 5 at the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, get this, 6 blocks for this dude. Then in the ACC tournament, he went absolutely nuclear, went off. Here you go. Game 1 against Virginia Tech, 29 points, 11 of 20 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3, 8 of 14 from 2, 4 of 6 at the free throw line, 5 boards, 2 assists, and a steal. Then in Cal's final game of the season against his former team, Stanford, 37 points, 13 of 22 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3, 9 of 15 from 2, 7 of 8 at the line, 5 rebounds again, and an assist. So in the ACC tournament, this guy who struggled from 3 on the season was 7 of 13. This is a guy you got to pour heavy time and investment into. You know, we talked yesterday on the show, for example, about, do you look at Simeon Wilcher? I honestly don't think you do, right? Like, I always want to talk about these guys because I think it's worth the exploration. I think it's worth the conversation. But at the end of the day, I was talking with some of the insiders on Monday, and I was like, I don't think Wilcher's the guy you want. Somebody said he's a less good Seth Trimble, kind of like that. But I think Peja, here, listen to that Freudian slip. Andrej Stojakovic is a kind of guy like you don't really necessarily have, like this high-level elite offensive player that can do a lot. A question we would have to ask is, let's say Ven-Allen Lubin does leave. Would you bring in Andrej Stojakovic even if Drake Powell stays? That's a tougher question to answer. I think probably not, because I don't think he would get the minutes he's looking for. Unless you played one of them at the 4, which I don't think is what you want to do, because A, you got Caleb Wilson at the 4, and B, that's just not where either of them would shine. There really are 3s. So I think this is only in the event that either Drake or Ven-Allen leaves, or both. Now, here's another thing you got to be aware of. This whole conversation we're having could be a moot point, or as Joey Tribbiani once said on Friends, it could be a moo point. Why? Well, he's visiting Illinois right now, and it seems like they're leading this chase. And honestly, I hate to say it, but I think he'd be a great fit there. And I think they have more roster space and playing time for Andre than Carolina does. So he could commit there while he's there. And that's all she wrote, right? This is over before we even really talk about it. There's also been Duke noise. And that's another thing. I would love to win a recruiting battle over Duke for him. That'd be great. So one pro, one con, and a one, I don't know. The pro. Aside from this is something we haven't talked about. I love how much he's getting to the free throw line. He was 7th in the ACC in free throw attempts this past year, and he had 5.7 per game. I really, really like that, and I think that's something Coach Davis loves. And then once he gets there, he was making them. He was 9th in the ACC in made free throws. Again, as I said earlier, just shy of 82% from the free throw line. A con, obviously, the three-point shooting is not what we would like. For his career so far in the first 2 years, he is a 32.2% three-point shooter. That doesn't jive, though, with who he is. He came out of high school known as a three-point shooter. Hello, meet his father, right? Here's what I think it is. I think it's Harrison Ingram all over again. You'll recall, Harrison Ingram came to North Carolina from Stanford, not a great three-point shooter. And one of the things I said, a refrain I said over and over and over that summer ahead of him coming to Carolina was, when Harrison Ingram gets better players around him and he's not having to carry the load as he did at Stanford, as Andre has done at both Stanford and Cal, he's going to be in better shape. And so I think getting to a team like Carolina with a bunch of talent around him, just like I said with Harrison Ingram, when he doesn't have to be the guy, that's when he's the guy. That's when he's in his best skill set. And I think is why you sell Andre on come here, even though we've got talent, because that can put you at your best. That's why I compare it to Harrison Ingram. And then the hard to know. Man, again, close to 18 points a game last year in totality. But he did that with a really high usage rate, 27.8%. That was 8th in the ACC. There's no way he's getting that same usage rate at Carolina if he comes to be a Tar Heel. Would he do what he did? Would he be able to put up the same type of efficiency? Or actually, honestly, hopefully better efficiency, because it wasn't great. That's the unknown of this whole thing that we would have to try to answer before you bring him in. I think it would be great, and I would love it. But there's a lot of parts that have to move before we see that come to fruition. So again, I want to make sure that the Tar Heels are not caught if Drake Powell leaves, if Ven-Allen Lubin leaves, if they both leave. Got to have options ready. And I think Andrej Stojakovic would be, if not at, very near the top of my list in that regard. So I've been referencing Ven-Allen Lubin leaving a lot because it was a wild start to Monday. I was getting ready to go teach a class, and boom, Ven-Allen Lubin is probably entering the portal. What? And then he wasn't. What's going on there? We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Game Time. Man, there's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment. It just feels so huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be there. You can be part of it without the stress of last minute ticket hunting, which is great because I'm about to suggest some tickets for a game that's literally tonight. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get these playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high like it is right now. Prices on the app, they actually go down the closer you get to tip off. And Game Time's last minute ticket deals can save you up to 60% off. Here's part of why I love Game Time. That 60% off, it's not just for sports. Maybe you want to get last minute tickets for a concert or a comedy show or theater, whatever it is. Game Time's got you covered. I also really like this all-in pricing thing they have. You can toggle on all-in pricing, and that way when you get to checkout, there's not like this whole litany of convenience fees and other taxes you have to pay. You see all of that right when you choose what ticket you want. How about a game tonight? Grizz at Thunder Game 2. Oklahoma City won Game 1 by 51 points. Well, I found tickets to this game for $54. It's 10% off. You can get in the door. That's great. Get in on that action and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest prices guaranteed. Oh boy, this one was a doozy on Monday. I have been feeling very good about Carolina's front court. You've got Henry Vesar, probable starter at the 5, and you got Ven-Allen Lubin as a backup. Remember everything Ven-Allen did last year down the stretch. I'm like, that's a great 1-2 punch at the 5. You've got Caleb Wilson coming in at the 4. You brought in Jaron Stevenson. They're going to fight each other for that starting spot. I can't wait to see that unfold. And then behind those guys, you've got Zayden High at the 4. You've got James Brown at the 5. I'm like, that's good depth, man. And Carolina's in a good place. But then on Monday, there starts to just be this little cheap tweet, just these little rumblings, these little birdies. Talking about Ven-Allen Lubin entering the transfer portal on the day before it's going to close. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. But here's the thing. Basically, Ven-Allen Lubin is entering the portal because he wants to stay at UNC, but he wants to take care of himself. And I get that, and I understand it. So there was this whole, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes when it was like, oh my gosh, Ven's gone. What's going to happen? Like I had already texted Coach Rob. I had texted Coach Pack. I was like, fellas, bad news. Ven's out the door. Coach Rob texted me back. He said, that's not great, but understandable. And I had started to come to grips with that. I was like, yeah, that's a good point. Like, I get it. It's his last year. He wants to go get paid somewhere. But man, I thought we had something, I thought we had something special. And so I go from, again, this great feeling about the front court to, man, we need another piece. We need more depth. We got to get better. And, another way I'd wrapped my brain around it is somebody in the Locked On Tar Heels Discord said, Ven-Allen Lubin is needed, but he's not irreplaceable. And that lifted my spirits. I was like, yeah, that's true. His role is so important, but there are potentially other guys out there you could go get to do that. I had already started thinking about, okay, he's the 5th Tar Heel out, joining Elliot Cadeau, Jalen Washington, Cade Tyson, Ian Jackson, and now Ven-Allen Lubin. But then, after I had already processed all of this, Ven-Allen tweets out, he himself tweeted out at noon Eastern time, 11 a.m. my time, quote, before anybody jumps to the wrong conclusion, I am letting everyone know that I am entering the transfer portal with full intent on returning to UNC. What? My action relates to the complexities surrounding the possible approval of the pending NCAA settlement, end quote. Huh? Was my reaction. I'm sure it was probably yours too. Now, I know a lot about this because of my national college basketball coverage. I study this stuff every day. But this was the first example of this kind that I had seen or heard of. So I had to stop and kind of process it. You're entering the portal, but you're coming back. You already know that. So what's going on with the NCAA and the House settlement that is yet to be approved? And then you start processing it. You're like, okay, I think a lot of people maybe thought this would be done by now. And also the portal closes tomorrow at the point I was thinking this, which would be now today. So I immediately thought, look, this has to be somehow tied to NIL things or earnings associated with NIL. Because if Ven's talking about the house settlement, which is going to include things with rev sharing and how schools can directly pay players now, and also part of that would be that your NIL opportunities that you sign have to go through more of a clearinghouse basically now. And so then news started to come out that brought all those pieces together for me, that basically Ven-Allen Lubin, at least part of his NIL agreement or contract agreement, has NIL tied to it that's third party, that if and when the legislation is approved, finalized, whatever you want to say, would have to be approved by that. And in the off chance that it wasn't and he would miss out on that money, he's just covering himself to make sure that he's got the ability to make moves he needs to make to take care of himself financially, is basically how this seems to me, or as I put all these pieces together. And I can't blame him. Again, this is about player autonomy. This is about Ven-Allen Lubin doesn't project to be somebody that's going to make the NBA. I hope that he does, and I'd love it. But the reality is that's probably not going to happen. So right now is the best earning power he's ever going to have in his life as a basketball player. Now, he could go overseas somewhere and make some really, really good money. I don't doubt that. But he has a big opportunity in front of him. And each year, NIL money goes up. And so if this is an opportunity to kind of renegotiate or recalibrate the money he gets, good for him, man. And so there's a lot there, but basically this allows him to keep his options open, kind of similar to think about people right now who declare for the NBA draft, but also enter the portal. Because like, what if I go to the NBA draft and I want to come back to my school, but my spot's gone? Well, you'd be screwed, but you entered the portal. And so now you can go somewhere else. But again, Ven-Allen says, hey, look, my goal is to come back to Carolina. And by the way, props to Ven-Allen, because he didn't owe us any of this, right? He could have kept us guessing and in the dark and whatever else. But I really appreciate that he took to social media to just kind of explain his heart and where he was at and what's going on. Because it's like, okay, this is just another learning in NIL and what all's going on. So hopefully the case with the house settlement is cleared up sooner rather than later. They can get this ironed out, and then Ven comes back to school. But, big but, because he entered the portal, there is obviously a very real world in which we have to consider that Ven-Allen Lubin will not be part of the 25-26 Tar Heels. That's a real thing. That's a real possibility. And again, one that I hope doesn't happen, but it could. So that's where things stand right now. Ven-Allen Lubin is in the transfer portal, but he plans to come back to Carolina. And he's protecting himself by getting in the portal and allowing for greater flexibility with NIL opportunities, including those that are part of his contract. That's the best I can understand and make sense of this right now. I'm sure that understanding will continue to evolve. And as it does, I will bring you my very best explanations of it, because I want to keep you up to date. And I know you want to know what's going on as well. Now, considering all of this, let's live in this hypothetical world where Ven-Allen Lubin is not part of the Tar Heels. At that point, does Carolina have enough front court depth, or are they in trouble and need somebody? I want to have that conversation coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Prize Picks. Baseball season is in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you just pick more or less on at least 2 player stat projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. So whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, whatever it is, Prize Picks keeps every game exciting for you. This week, I'm picking Aaron Judge. More than 1 home run, right? Like, that seems wise. Shohei Ohtani back from paternity leave. I'm just taking him for more than 1 stolen base because that seems wise to me. It's that easy. There you go. Bing, bang, bong, boom. Setting a lineup. takes less than 60 seconds. And when you win, your payout is quick, it's safe, and I love this, it's secure. You can also take advantage of promotions like Taco Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, where Prize Picks offers discounts on select player projections for even more value. Go ahead, download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. With all of this that we've been looking at and thinking about and talking about today, both Ven-Allen Lubin and the potential of Drake Powell to potentially go pro. And let's say in this hypothetical world we're living in as well that you bring in Andrej Stojakovic. So let's say Ven-Allen Lubin leaves and you bring in a wing in Andrej Stojakovic. The question for me is, do you have enough in the front court at that point? Well, think about it. It's what we talked about earlier, -1. So at the 5, at the center position, you would have Henry Vesar and James Brown. That's about it. At the 4, you would have Caleb Wilson, you'd have Jae'lyn Stevenson, and you'd have Zayden High. You would need some mix of those 5 guys taking care of things. And keep in mind, Henry Vesar can't play all the minutes. So either you got to go a little smaller, maybe Jae'lyn Stevenson at the 5. He's bigger than those other dudes, so that might be the play. Or maybe James Brown has developed a ton. Maybe he's developed a ton this offseason. He's ready to go. If so, cool. Let's make that happen. But if not, you got to reckon with this. Does Andrej Stojakovic deliver what you need? I don't know that he does. Drake Powell, in terms of front court help, is all I mean there. Last year, obviously, Drake Powell played a lot at the 4. Out of position, I might remind us, and Adden, that didn't go as well. He really flourished, I thought, when he moved to his more natural small forward position. So I don't want to rely on that necessarily either. We've seen Jae'lyn Stevenson play 5 for Alabama in his first 2 years there. You can go back and watch some of that footage. And I think some of the answer to this question for me depends on Drake Powell. If he's out, obviously, I feel less good about the shape of the front court. I feel like you would need to go get someone else. I don't think you have enough in the scenario where Ven-Allen Lubin is out, even if you have Andrej Stojakovic, even if you have Drake Powell. I think there's probably not going to be a ton of money or talent to go get. And so it's probably looking at adding a James Okonkwo, a Ty Claude type, which doesn't move the needle that much. It provides you a security blanket in a pinch, but it's rough, right? And so I just, again, I don't want to get caught with one of these guys leaving, right? Like if Ven-Allen, even in his best intentions, things don't work well and he just has to peace out. What do you do then? Are you leaving it? You feel good about it the way it is right now? Or do you need to add a piece? Right now, I would say I'd want to add a piece because I feel wildly different about this front court with Ven-Allen Lubin than I do without him. And I would love to see him replaced if he leaves. Ideally, I'd love him to come back. That's what I want to happen. But I just want to be ready. I think that's the theme of this show is be ready. You never know the time. I'm getting into Jesus metaphors here. Right. But like legitimately, you don't know. And so if Ven-Allen says, I'm back, you're good. You're golden. If Ven-Allen Lubin's gone, you got to make moves today. You got to make moves yesterday. That's where we're at. All right, guys. Thanks so much for being with us on the show today. It was great to talk about Andrej Stojakovic. Great to unpack all this Ven-Allen Lubin craziness. And hopefully that wraps itself up sooner rather than later. If you haven't subscribed to Locked On Tar Heels on YouTube, would love to have you there. That link is in the bottom corner. Boom. Hit it right now so you don't miss out on a single second. If you've not joined our Locked On Tar Heels Discord, that's a group of over 500 Tar Heels fans who are hanging out every day, talking about Carolina stuff and talking about everything under the sun. Honestly, it's a lot of fun. We'd love to see you there. Again, that link's in the show notes. As is the link for Locked On Tar Heels Insider Program, where you shrink it down from all those 500 people to just direct time with you and me, where we get to talk and chat and message back and forth. It could be a real beneficial place for you. I drop all my portal stuff in there early ahead of time, and sometimes that's the only place I drop it. And so you want to be in on that. That link is also in the show notes. Can't wait to be together again tomorrow, but for now, I want to say it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow. But until then, peace.